News. Good evening and welcome to Mindful Live 166. I'm your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 10th of the first. We're already into the double digits of this first month of the year, January. Yep, the year is already flying along. I was saying I barely got accustomed to 2022, and we're already into. To be very honest, I wasn't even accustomed to 2021. I was now 2020 was now growing on me, and we're already in 2023. I feel like it should still be 2020. The problem is, and I keep saying this, the problem is 2020 to 2022 are 3 years. Something in your mind makes you think like that 2020 to 2022 is 2 years, but it's not. It's 3 years. That's 3 years that kind of just magically disappeared on us. I still feel like we should be able to get a restart, go back to 2020 and take things from, you know what, I have my daughter, maybe it might not work out if we restart, so we'll go as is. But all that to say that time is flying for some strange reason. It's a blip room. Yes, it's a blip. That's precisely it. Tonight, the older you get, time goes faster. I've noticed that. I figured that. Like, it seems like the older you get, time kind of speeds up. I feel like when I was 8 years old, a year was a really long time. Now, you plan something for next year and you start to feel like, wow, the time is running out already. But as an 8-year-old back in those days, a year seemed like, you felt those 12 months. You really felt those 12 months. 2 months of August vacation, and after those 2 months, you're feeling like you're going back to school and it's a strange place. What is this strange thing you were talking about? Writing? Right? How do you do that? How are you supposed to hold this pencil again? 2 months seemed like a really long time. Now 2 months is asleep. If you sleep for too long, 2 months might pass you by. If you snooze is a week. All right. This evening we're starting talking about scrap iron, the scrap iron industry. They had some problems recently in Trinidad because, well, some of the problems are problems of their own creation. Selector SK says, too much to do in such little time, so it feels as though time flies. That's very true. The amount you have to do in the very limited time. They had some problems in the recent times, and some of it was of their own making, if we're being honest. There was a lot of stealing going on. There was a lot of stealing going on in the scrap iron industry. Now, as I've continually said, the stealing in the scrap iron industry, I think, a lot of the blame was unfairly placed primarily on the lower end of the industry. And that's not fair to them. Because many people have pointed this out. The fact of the matter is, all those guys scaling the poles and cutting wires in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, risking electrocution, they aren't owning any containers. They aren't the ones renting the containers to ship this copper out of the country. Those are some wealthy people doing that. And it's very strange all of the bacchanal was made, but it seems like not much effort was placed in trying to get those guys. Like, let's say there are 400 wire thieves in the country. There may be 400 wire thieves, but only 2 exporters of the stolen wire. And if there are 400 wire thieves, but 2 exporters of stolen wire, and you're trying to stop the entire industry, I think you would focus on the 2. I mean, that seems like common sense to me, but common sense may not be that common, or I just may not understand these deep and complex issues as well. But the entire industry was shut down because of this. The government was like, this country cannot continue this way. There are too many thieves in this job. And seeing as we can't stop them from stealing, we're going to shut down the entire thing. Which is interesting because there are many other industries where I might say there's a very high preponderance of thieves inside of the job industry. But yet still, they don't shut it down. But nonetheless, they shut down the scrap industry because of the thieves. Ria Ward said, I heard Nathan giving away gifts to celebrate his birthday. Well, yes, I am giving away gifts. I am giving away gifts of knowledge. Gifts of knowledge, gifts of wisdom, gifts of wise words, gifts of pressing pertinent questions, gifts to make your mind awaken, to make your curiosity tingle and pull that adventurous spirit out of you. That's a gift. Now I want to hamper Rhea says. You see, therein is the problem, Miss Ward. Therein is the problem. There are so many people presently in our country. So many people do not understand the value of things. When you can gain knowledge, you can gain knowledge that could last you for years, for decades. You may be able to pass this knowledge down to your children through your legacy. But instead, you would forsake that knowledge and instead take a hamper and get some milk that after 2-3 uses of the lavatory, all of the milk is gone. Nothing lasting comes from that. The knowledge is the key. You have knowledge to win the lotto, Nathan. As you saying that room, Nathan, my brain's old, but in you guys shiny. Good one, my brain's old, but on you guys shiny. As you say lotto, I saw the lotto. Is that Trinidad's lotto I saw is 1.1 billion? Was that with a B I saw? $1.1 billion was Trinidad's lotto? Was I reading correctly when I saw that the lottery rolled to something billion dollars? Yes. Mega Million swells to $1.1 billion. Oh. Yeah. 1.1 billion with a B. I don't know why the volume just suddenly. With a B. I find that very interesting. Nathan, like them politicians say, that in Trinidad, not can never me and me ain't play enough thieves in Parliament shut down. That is in the US. Yeah, I was reading that day. It swells to 1.1 billion in the US. Now, you know, I've heard it said that lottery is a tax on poor people, you know. Think of it this way. You never see rich people winning the lottery because rich people don't play the lottery. The lottery is a tax on poor people. So it's all the poor people wishing for some money and pooling their resources here. And at the end of the day, the government makes the most money off of the lottery. That's kind of underhanded. That most of these lottery systems are run by the government. And the government is basically raking off a good bit of the extra money from the poorest people in the country. Because that's generally the people who play the lottery. Such a strange thing that it's run by the government. The government runs that. Anyway, we were talking about the scrap iron industry and the problems that they are facing. So the legislation to run the scrap iron industry was recently brought forward in Parliament, and some of the members in the industry had some problems with it. And I remember saying this when we first heard about the industry shutting down. You could go back to that live. Alcohol too, but we like it. That's true, Kerry Pariag over there on YouTube. I remember saying that back then, that I hope what is happening here with this scrap iron industry isn't going to be that they're going to shut down the industry for the thieving and then say, okay, what we're actually going to do here is create this industry in a way that only the wealthiest of people could get back into the industry. And that seems to be where some of the problems are being highlighted as the industry is set to reopen under these new laws. But even with the new laws, I was wondering this. I said this when we were talking about crime last week in the live I did last week. How are we to assume that the same amount of police that we had last year that struggled to maintain the law with these scrap iron dealers, how are we to assume that when you reopen the industry with new laws, they're somehow going to be able to handle that? How are we to assume that? Because the problem wasn't that stealing copper was legal. Stealing copper was always illegal. It wasn't like they needed a new law to make stealing copper illegal. They needed a way to catch these men. Did the new laws they pass make it easier to enforce these laws? Or would it be the same amount of police that was struggling to keep up with the bandits in the first place still going to be struggling for it? Let's jump into that article. Self-regulation is key. The pledge made by the president of the Scrap Iron Dealers Association to call in the police for any dealer found operating illegally sends a welcome signal amid a period of reform for the industry. Speaking on Tuesday at Signature Hall, Mr. Ferguson said along with government-appointed inspectors, the association will have its own team of people who will inspect and monitor the industry to weed out any wrongdoers. If you were involved in buying stolen goods, forget it, he said. If you send containers to operators without licenses, I will send the police to your house personally. He also called on the citizenry to not to aid unregistered scrap iron dealers, as to do so would not only run contrary to regulations, but also put the industry at risk. It would also endanger jobs and defeat the purpose of efforts at fresh regulation. Members of the public and direct stakeholders should heed these calls and warnings. The history of the industry's evolution suggests it will take more than just a new legal regime, to eliminate some of the problems that have dogged it. The 2022 Scrap Metal Act was finally passed in December after consultations with the Association, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and the Office of the Attorney General. It is now for the Cabinet to determine when the law will be proclaimed. Even after this, however, there will potentially be a period in which old licenses will still remain valid. Whenever the law takes effect, it will only make a real difference if it is fully enforced. Legislation is not a problem. It is enforcement that is the problem, noted Association Vice President Iras Sijatan on Tuesday. Yet the ability of the police to enforce the law is unlikely to have shifted much between the space of last year and now. As with so many aspects of civilian life, much will depend on the ability of groups like the association to encourage self-regulation. CM Stickman says, I'm more interested in your thoughts on education in TNT, and that extends to the job market and the education system, I suppose, and as it extends to the job market. My thoughts on education. In terms of what exactly would your question be, Mr. CM Stickman? I mean, my thoughts on education is a wide area. I have a lot of thoughts on education. I see them pretty regularly, but I don't know specifically what you're talking about there. In relation to the job market, do I think here's part of the problem. The education system as is created now was created for a job market, a job system that existed in the early 1900s, the early 20th century. Our education system was made for jobs that existed from 1900 to 1980. Probably since the 1980s, our education system no, you're currently in the giveaway area. You're currently in the giveaway. If you pay attention, you will be grasping what I'm giving. The education system, possibly since the 80s, hasn't been ideally directed to supplying the kind of education needed for the kind of jobs that are needed. And especially now, the people, for example, the people who may be giving you, when you go to school, and the career guidance officers may be guiding you to careers that existed in the 90s, but that are not what is the future of the world, where the direction the future of the world is going. As you bring this up, a topic that I have to talk about tonight, I had this topic up to talk about tonight, is, for example, the prevalence of artificial intelligence. The prevalence of artificial intelligence that we're seeing right now. And that prevalence of artificial intelligence is already changing the job market. The chat GPT tree that we have on the internet now, it's a chatbot, an artificial an artificial intelligence, but that could write basically anything way better than any human with a prompt. I could go to the bot and tell the bot, write for me in legal language a pre-action protocol letter to Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley for XYZ. And it will write it out in legal language for me pretty precisely. Now, that in and of itself may kill 3/4 of the work that lawyers have. Lawyers may be out of a job. You could go and ask the chatbot to write code, as in code for a program. Hey, I want you to write the code for a program to do this kind of processing, and it writes out the code. So many programmers, many computer engineers may be seeing some of their jobs going out of the window. So you have to understand where the future of jobs may be. There are many AI animation generators now. And I'm sure artists by themselves may never go out of style, but a graphic designer. Graphic design may not necessarily be a job in the future as it was for the last 15 years, for the last 20 years. I have a 10-month-old baby. When to start Montessori teaching? If you're talking about you teaching, you start teaching from the moment your child is born. If you're talking about official teaching, where we do Montessori, 10 months maybe young for otherwise, but if you're talking about you, it's from the point the child could understand, then you start teaching. There isn't any specific spot to start. Made my life so simple. So you actually use ChatGPT as part of your work already. Hex and Pi, what you had asked me about is up the chat. What I had asked you about is up the chat. I had most work experience than most people that I went to school with. Right now, that, as I was saying, comments on the education system, with the changes we're having, the schooling system that we have may not be perfectly geared to that future job market. Good night, Kermack. So if you're talking about the job market as regards to the education system, I'd say that our education system is not geared towards the future of the job market. And that's why the progress that some people want to see in the world may actually be inhibited by some in the education system. If you're someone who has vested interest in the nature of the way the education system has been, you're a lawyer in the old school. Let's say you recently finished 5 years in different styles of law school, and now you're ready to practice law, and writing lawyer letters would be a big part of your early salaries that you want to make. And then ChatGPT comes and wants to disrupt that. It may be in your best interest to not want that kind of progress to go. So the schooling system may actually be, in a way, holding back some of the progress we have. So if you're talking about the school system like that, I have always been someone that pushes for the idea of education separate from the school system that we have. So, for example, the school system, a problem that I have with the school system, this 8 hours a day of education, it makes it seem like education requires 8 hours for you to teach a child something. But no, the school system is 8 hours because it was created to allow parents to go to work. So we take your child while you go to work, and the 8 hours are geared so that you could work for your 8 hours and we care for your child for the 8 hours. It's not geared towards actually educating the child. Maybe educating a child would be 3 hours of concerted learning, concentrated learning per day, and the rest in the child pursuing their own curiosity, and that may be way better. But in pursuit of allowing parents to work in the current labor system that we have a school system that forces 8 hours of learning, and they try to have it militarized into that 8 hours regimented there, and that isn't necessarily conducive, and it may be training an incorrect mindset when going into the future of the job market. The future of the job market that may be a much more flexible job market, where there may not be 8 to 4, as many 8 to 4 jobs that are Monday to Friday. The job is based on when you could do what you can do as frequently as you can, and you're trained as a 8 to 4 worker bee. Kanu says you can teach the same amount for your child within 3 to 4 hours. I'd say to me, especially for younger children, 3 hours. That's the periods that would be much more ideal. Hex Senpai says GPT helps me find detailed info for projects in seconds that would take me hours to research. You have to be very specific if you want a detailed output. Yeah. And there it is, Hex Senpai. There's an example of it. Maybe the future of some education would be in figuring out the right prompts for certain AI. Wherein you would have had to write an essay and learn to write an essay of 2,000 words. No. What you need now is to figure out the 20 questions to input into the AI that will give you the precise answer you want. And learn how to think through a problem. There's a way of breaking down problems, nearly as it would dichotomizing the problem, breaking down the problem into different stages to ask the right questions for an AI to input into an AI. Maybe that's the future of certain parts of education, but the education system may not be able to keep up with that. Kermax says, so what will be a proper education system for you? Kanu says, some of the smartest children have been homeschooled, learn how to perform tax returns, trade program, and build a business. To me, a lot of what a proper education system would be is focused on STEM. Science, technology, engineering, math. The subjects that require someone who knows what they're doing more to teach it. There should be much more of a focus on that. There should be a more concerted focus on shorter periods of time. That's what I'd say. There should be much more stratified learning, as in not all children learning at the same speed at the same time, because it does not work. There should be much more stratified learning, so different children learning different things at different speeds. Kermax says, I don't think it's the hours, I believe it's the teacher and the school itself. Not just the teacher, more probably the school itself. You see, many teachers have an impossible problem in the first place. If you as a teacher, you have 30 students and you have 5 students that are very quick learners, 10 students that are average learners, 10 students that are a little slower than average, and 5 students that are really, really slow learners. And you have to teach one lesson that somehow encompasses all 30 of those varied learning students. That's basically an impossible mission. You're trying to aim for the largest body, so you're trying to aim at the middle of the students, so the students who don't get too fast, don't get too slow, that's where you're aiming at. And you, as Kanu says, you have a curriculum to cover. So you can't go too slow to try and allow others to keep up. So you're going at the correct speed and aiming at the middle there. Now, the students who are faster, as I always say this, anyone who has been in the live long enough has heard me say this before. The students who go faster, they're frustrated by that. You end up with a lot of students who are brilliant but frustrated by the education system because it doesn't pique their curiosity, it doesn't pull their adventurous learning spirit on forward. And then you have the students who are slower, who are also frustrated because they can't keep up with what is going on. They don't understand it. They've been lost since D and you are on Z. Obviously, they're going to be frustrated by this whole system. So it's not just on the teachers. You have to understand the mission we give the teachers is already a nearly impossible one. In expensive schools, there's a 1 teacher to 5 children as opposed to 1 to 25. Well, I don't know about expensive schools, but I do. This is a good point to highlight that this is brought to you by Mindful Education, the education services that I run. We do learning pods where there are around 6 students per pod, and they're sectioned by learning stage. So lower primary, upper primary, lower secondary, upper secondary. There's a preschool pod that we recently started too. And the aim of it is to provide these kinds of things. Kermax says, as I said, it's the school and the teacher. Well, yeah, but I understand what you're saying, but I don't know how much of it I'll just put on the teachers in general. But yeah, if you're looking for much fewer students to a teacher, we do that. So you can head over to Mindful Education and follow us over on Instagram or on Facebook. And if you are interested in such classes, get into contact with us. So that pulled me really far away from scrap iron. Thoughts on education. You know, as we're talking about that, I'll jump into the AI one time. The AI, the thoughts on AI and where it's going in the future already. The feeder schools for Ivy League universities. Where do you teach these classes, Nathan, for wherever I decide to have to mini-me? Well, I teach, my location is in Central Waterloo, but we also offer for the learning pods, we offer coming to your location, because remember, it's 6 students. It's not that large of a class. So we have one started in South recently. There's one I'm looking at in Arima. We have one in Endeavor. If anyone is interested, there's very limited room right now for a learning pod in Endeavor. If anyone is interested in such, very limited room, late primary learning pod. So yes, we also offer coming to locations. If you have 5 students at least in a location, 5 students, 6 students, we will provide the teacher, provide the curriculum to go start a learning pod there. 1 teacher to maximum 5 students primary. What school is that? But yeah, that's the idea to me. That's the idea of how it should be. And the main problem with a lot of that, I think, is, as I was saying, where we're supposed to see much more stratified teaching. We're supposed to see much more stratified learning. The massive classrooms for mixed students in a class, they just don't work. Kanu says, my folks couldn't afford a good school, but my parents taught me after school. Well, that's the thing. Many children are given extra lessons or are taught by their parents, and they may be able to make it in the school system. But if you only falter, then the school system is going to be a struggle. I'm asking the same question to Kanu. Oh. If you only falter when you don't have that kind of extra help, then you're in for some real trouble. That's like that's similar to me, like I was speaking about with online learning, with the online classes that were going on. Many students benefited from the online classes, but you must understand that not all of the students would be able to maximize the benefit out of online learning. If you have parents or a support structure around you that already aids you greatly, then online learning is going to skyrocket how good you are at it. It's going to make you a lot better. It's going to make you a lot better. But if you already have parents who don't pay much attention to your schooling, then online learning is just going to be another horror story where you'd be left out. That pod, the age bracket CRIMAC, we have preschool straight up to CXC, the learning pods. So a very wide age bracket. It's different age brackets. So we have preschool pods, then we have lower primary pods, then we have preschool, lower primary, and then lower secondary and upper secondary. So there are different levels to it. If you are interested, you could head over to Instagram. You could message me anywhere, really and truly. But the page is there over on Instagram and on Facebook. Mindful Education. Mindful with 2 L's as I spell it on the t-shirt here. Mindful Education. You could head over there and you'd get the information there. Just and you get the information there for maths, primary, and CSEC. Well, as I said, you could head over and you'd get the information, you get the numbers, you could call, get all the information you want. Yes, Kanu, we are in Trinidad, just by the way. If you're wondering what country, I thought that would have been known, but we're in Trinidad. Kanu may not be in Trinidad, Kermac, so that could be why that question is that way. All right, let's just jump over to the AI article quickly here. AI might be seemingly everywhere, but there are still plenty things it can't do for now. These days, we don't have to wait long until the next breakthrough in artificial intelligence impresses everyone with capabilities that previously belonged only in science fiction. In 2022, AI art generation tools such as OpenAI's DALL-E 2, Google's Imagen, and Stable Diffusion took the internet by storm, with users generating high-quality images from text descriptions. Unlike previous developments, these text-to-image tools quickly found their way from research labs to mainstream culture, leading to viral phenomena such as the magic avatar feature in the Lensa AI app, which creates stylized images of its users. As I said, you can imagine the future of graphic design with things like this out there. You could imagine when the AI is capable of producing not only pictures, not only animated pictures. How is your special needs teaching? It's according to what the special needs is, Roni. It's according to what the special needs are, because the special needs could be a pretty wide range. If you're talking learning challenges, then we do have capability. If you're talking differently abled in other areas, then that may be much more difficult. All right. Yeah, you could imagine the future of graphic design when the capabilities of this AI reach to the stage where you could input text and it's not just an image, a single image it's producing for you. No, it could produce an entire video. Could you imagine what advertising is going to be like? There wouldn't be need for any advertising agency. I could say, create an ad for me for a product that sells that with the benefits of XYZ, make it look XYZ, 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 enter, and an ad is produced. Imagine that. Imagine where the future of these things lead. And I see many people being quite upset about it. It's coming for all of our jobs soon. Yeah, that's the idea many people have. But sometimes I wonder, because, for example, there aren't many horse groomers out there anymore. There aren't horse poop scoopers on the road working anymore. Things change with time and there are new jobs that are created. How many people now work in IT versus in the 80s? How many people worked in IT in the 80s versus how many people work in IT now? So maybe as the AI changes the job market, there'll be new jobs, different jobs that pop up for people to do that they didn't do previously. The problem I see, though, one of the problems I see in how things are running right now is the speed it happens at. So, like the change from horse-drawn buggies to internal combustion engine cars wasn't over the course of 2 weeks. It was over the course of years. But with the speed of technological advancement that we're at now, we could be in a stage where these things could happen over a very short period of time. If people that spent the last 10 years mastering graphic design are put out of a job in 2 months by an AI, what are they going to learn in 2 months that they would be able to provide a valuable job for themselves with? And this is where people coming to talk about things like UBI, the Universal Basic Income, where when none of us have a job, the AI and the robots do everything out there, and the government gives us all a little salary. Little salary. You take a little 2,000 per month, you take a little 2,000 per month, and all we do is sit at home, relax, and eat food and get fat. Yeah. I think that's a depressing life. I'd rather work any day. In December, a chatbot called ChatGPT stunned users with its writing skills, leading to predictions the technology will soon be able to pass professional exams. ChatGPT reportedly gained 1 million users in less than a week. That's another thing. The speed at which these things are gaining popularity. It took what, MySpace, how many years to reach 1 million users? It may have taken Facebook, what, a couple months. It would have taken Instagram a couple months or a couple years. But as it took TikTok a shorter period of time, and then ChatGPT, each one of these things as it progresses through time is taking a shorter amount of time to become as popular. Him says, I wonder what universities are going to do about ChatGPT. Good question. Salty Casual says there'll be new jobs where we leverage the AI to do even more advanced things. My space, that's old school. That's real old school. But AI and robotics will prevent humans from dying doing dangerous jobs. That's also true. It provides the opportunity for things that do not have a soul, as we say, to go out there and risk themselves. We'd much rather the robots do coal mining than a lot of actual humans inside of a coal. If you think a little bit, you can get ChatGPT to write and correct code efficiently. Yes, you can. Microsoft ChatGPT reportedly gained right. Some school officials have already banned it for fair students would use it to write essays. Now, the thing is, that's difficult to ban because how would you even know? How would you even know which is which? How would you know if ChatGPT wrote this? How are you going to test that? Remember, it's not plagiarizing something. It's not copying something from the internet that was written before. It's writing basically something brand new. Microsoft is reportedly planning to incorporate ChatGPT into its Bing web search and Office products later this year. Yep. Yep. Kanu, don't worry about the future for children. They are way smarter than we will ever be. They are ChatGPT AI checkers, but you can run it through Quillbot and beat the system. Listen, if it's an AI, if it's an AI, part of what they want AIs to be able to do is learn. If there is something that could figure out trends in the AI, wouldn't it be possible to input something in the AI to defeat that too? What does unrelenting progress in AI mean for the near future? And is AI likely to threaten certain jobs in the following years? Despite these impressive recent AI achievements, we need to recognize there are still significant limitations to what AI systems can do. AI excels at pattern recognition. Recent advances in AI rely predominantly on machine learning algorithms that discern complex patterns and relationships from vast amounts of data. This training is then used for tasks like prediction and data generation. The development of current AI technology relies on optimizing predictive power, even if the goal is to generate new output. Now, this, I think, is a really good thing. Now, I'm not sure how far I want AI to go, but this stage of AI, I think, is actually a benefit. Because what these different chatbots and different AI bots generally do is they're actually processing massive amounts of data and collating it to your prompts. So if I ask the AI bot to write for me a Shakespearean novel about Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, what it's going to do is it's going to analyze all of the Shakespearean writing, analyze most of the news it could find on Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, correlate those into a predictive algorithm that basically predicts what it's going to sound like. Now, the benefit of that is we get a machine to do a lot of the data processing. I think if machines could do basically all of the data processing and leave humans to much more adventurous, curious things, that will be a benefit. I'm sorry, but your job as an accountant should be irrelevant. An accountant should be something taken over by a machine. I'm sorry, that's just the reality. Law, I would love if 99% of the law is taken over by AI. Here's what I mean. If law is about justice, and I am trying to pursue justice, it shouldn't be that it costs me my life savings. Wouldn't it be grand if the public defendant was basically an AI that you can get, you input your information, and it reads out a legal argument for your information. And that legal argument can then be read and weighed on its own merit in that sense. I'm pretty sure that legal argument would actually be superior to probably anyone legal aid lawyer would be able to give you. But I don't think the lawyers that are in charge of the government systems would enjoy that very much. I don't think the lawyers would be going for that. I don't think they would go for that. Not at all. But law and the legal profession, I think that's something that can actually be automated, and it would be better for everyone. It would be better for everyone involved. No bribes. Much faster legal system. Much faster legal system. No, logically, if AI took over justice, modern governments would be removed. No, I don't think so. I don't think so because AI cannot actually do everything. AI isn't capable of making the laws. AI could say whether something is against the law. It could compare two things to see how they match up to the law, but it cannot actually make the law. The problem is that these current machines are very good at predicting things and collating data, but they're not actually good at common sense reasoning. Language models such as GPT-3 can successfully solve some tasks requiring common sense reasoning. However, the following interaction with ChatGPT, adapted from an experiment by Gary Marcus, suggests it is not entirely reliable in this aspect. Now, listen to this interaction between the AI and someone. Someone inputted this into the AI. I'm 8 years old. When I was born, my biological mother was in Barcelona and my father was in Tokyo. Where was I born? Think through this step by step. That's the question asked of the AI. The AI's response: it is not mentioned where you were born. All we know is that your biological mother was in Barcelona and your father was in Tokyo at the time of your birth. Now, I don't want you all to try and next thing you miss the logic inside of it. But if you're wondering where someone was born, wherever their biological mother was at the time of their birth is very likely where they would have been born, you know? That's kind of common sense. But the ChatGPT wouldn't have that kind of common sense. No, he was born in Barcelona. His biological mother was in Barcelona. He was born where his mother was, you know? She carried him. There was a Google engineer who became convinced that a chatbot became sentient. Yes, I remember that. We spoke about that. But it wasn't sentient. It's just really good at predicting. It's like parrots. Parrots mimic. If you get a parrot that could mimic really good, you could feel like you're having a conversation, but it may not be a conversation. It's just mimicking what a conversation actually sounds like. Now, that's a bit of a quibbling because you could argue at what point does mimicking get so good that it's not really mimicking? And I don't know really, but that's the reality of it. It's not directly sentient, it's just really good at mimicking people who are sentient. Tomato, tomato, not sure. Human values. Whenever groundbreaking AI systems are released, news articles and social media posts documenting racist, sexist, and other types of biased and harmful behaviors inevitably follow. This flaw is inherent to current AI systems, which are bound to be a reflection of their data. Human values such as truth and fairness are not fundamentally built into algorithms. That's something researchers don't yet know how to do. So, if you go ask the AI, write a story about the race of someone who is most likely to be a violent criminal, it may tell you something that you don't like to hear. The nuances of humans and their political correctness isn't inbuilt into some of the AI. Now, I read where they went into ChatGPT, for example, and stopped ChatGPT from providing arguments against climate change. So, for example, you could have gone into ChatGPT and said, provide sound arguments that the climate change models are wrong and the climate change pushers are lying to the world. And it would provide such an argument. They stopped it from being able to do that. You see, these provide some very strange things. And now, when you see things like that, you end up into a curious question where you wonder if the human controllers behind the AI may actually have a lot more power over it than we might think. And if we leave things to the AI over time, let's say we leave the judicial system to the AI, would there be someone who could go into the AI, control certain things, and when there are no longer any human checks and balances, the AI can be controlled entirely by one human being? What do you think about the AI president? No thanks. No thanks. We have kill switches with our AIs. But you see, the problem with having kill switches and all of that with the AI is the AI generally would be way more intelligent than any other person. How are you so sure that the AI wouldn't be able to create something that bypasses the kill switch? How are you so sure that the AI isn't going to be able to convince you or convince someone to delete the possible kill switch? You absolutely have these in place to prevent code from being deployed to production. I'm sure you do, but eventually that's the worry, is that if it's AI that can learn, what's to stop it from doing just that? AI will naturally promote to production, hence why we have kill switches. Yeah. If humans write AI, humans would write AI with the human outlook of progress. Humans have that progress evolutionary thing kind of inbuilt. We're always looking for to add on and make progress and push that progress. And if we're writing AI that is learning, very likely we're going to write the same thing, and the AI would be interested in doing the same thing. X Senpai said, I just asked GPT to write a soca. I'll send you the result in IG. Yes, please do that. I saw someone got GPT to write a rap like Tupac, to write a Tupac rap. You see, that's the creepy part, you know. You could ask it to write a rap, yeah, that's okay, interesting. But you could get it to write a rap just like Lil Wayne. Oof. And you have a rap in the same cadence as Lil Wayne. Now, that's a creepier part. You could get it to write a confession in the writing style of Nisi. So when someone reads this, it's believable that Nisi wrote this confession. Well, that's the main worry, Krima. Can I get it to write a thesis? That's the worry people in education are having. That how are you going to ever notice real experts anymore? The main thing in scientific fields are always about papers that people have written. And now, if you could get papers written by AI, and you see, the thing is, someone doesn't necessarily have to write an entire thesis from the AI. They could write some paragraphs. They could write a conclusion. They could write the introduction. Kevon Morpheus explained that at the early part of the 21st century, mankind celebrated its magnificence in creating AI. And then it went all into the matrix. Oh, I do confess. Well, Nisi, you're a red woman through and through. AI voice deepfakes are already a thing. Like, when you could imagine connecting those things. You could connect deepfakes where you could make me look like I'm saying anything you want me to say. And then you have AI creating the words that I say. So it seems a lot like how I speak. Oof. How would you know? How would you know? And and in as someone spoke about there with a president, you know, in the world that we live in right now, where you have nearly no one, if you're looking the world over, nearly no one has personally seen Joe Biden. You don't know if he's really a physical being. If it's all through screens you're seeing someone, how would you know if it's an AI or not? It could all be computer generated stuff. I learned the author of Terminator wrote The Matrix. Is that true? And isn't it the Wojcinski brothers who are actually now sisters? Sarah Connor was supposed to be. I did not. That's news to me. That's news. All right, people. It is 11:15. We've been here for years, mom. Well, you know, in modern days, mom, dad, you know, Haiti should have an AI president with all those attempted assassinations. Well, that might be convenient for them. That's one way to do it. That's one. It is said they stole the script. Oh, I didn't know that. Extrapolate. Seem. Yep. AI giving you a headache. AI giving you a headache. All right, people. All right. It was nice. It was nice. That's all I have for now. I hope you educated, informed, or entertained. And as per usual, this has been brought to you by Mindful Education. Be sure to head over there to our pages on Instagram, our page on Facebook, and you can follow our pages there. You can get the information if you are interested in these classes. We also provide private tutoring. That's where the tutor comes to your place of abode or wherever you have desired to do the classes, and they do personal one-on-one tutoring. We provide that service also. So if you are interested in any of these things, head over to any one of our pages, follow us there, like us there, get into contact, and I will see you guys for the next Mindful Live session, which is going to be tomorrow evening at around 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. thereabouts. Tomorrow is Wednesday, so that's the big old day. I will see you guys then. Until then, peace out, keep safe, folks. Laters. Peace. Ow. What?